Hello, beautiful people! Before this episode begins, we would like to give a shout out to everyone currently a part of the Overwatch Team 4, and especially everyone who unfortunately lost their job as a result of the wave of layoffs that happened on Thursday, January the 25th. We recorded this a few days after the fact. A lot of tears were shed, and we want to dedicate this episode to the devs, every single one of them, past and present. Thank you so much for working on this incredible game, because it truly wouldn't be what it is without you guys. And again, the Lorewatch team would like to give our best wishes and countless thanks to you for making Overwatch, Overwatch. Enjoy the episode! One last thing, there are a lot of comments on visuals, so pictures will be shown during the YouTube video and also on our Twitter. Alright, let's begin.
Welcome to Lorewatch. This is the third episode. I am one of your hosts, Reyes Thighs, no longer concussed, and with me I have...
Hey, it's Naya, aka the pro diva player, aka a liar.
And I'm Geese Dave Goose. I just work here. But today, we have our very first guest on the show. Please, everyone, I would like to introduce you to the very wonderful Alpha Wave.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes, the name is Alpha, and I go by Alpha Wave on the internet. I have a very strange voice, and I am probably known around the internet for being the freak who likes Dr. Howard Winston just a little bit too much.
Yay!
Whoa!
Whoop, whoop.
Yes, and we're happy to have you. And for today's topic, we're gonna kind of be jumping around, but to start, we would like to focus on the Recall cinematic short. Recall tells the story of Winston, a genetically engineered gorilla that we all know and love, who longs for the days of heroism to return. Recall explores Winston's thoughts and memories as he wrestles with the decision to recall the agents of Overwatch, all while the forces of Talon stage an attack on his laboratory in the abandoned Watchpoint Gibraltar. To us, the cinematic is our very first in the major timeline. While it isn't the first cinematic chronologically, it does set us up for the bulk of events that happen afterwards, since of course this precedes the Overwatch recall. You know, Winston's recall. Winston Overwatch's recall.
Sorry, who did that recall again?
I have no idea.
I think it was Tracer. That's why they gave her the recall move.
What was his name? Winchester?
Winton.
Worcester? Something like that.
Winton.
It's pronounced Worcestershire.
Yeah, no. For Overwatch 1, it takes place directly after the message in Are You With Us is sent. So, again, this is a huge anchoring point for us and the game's story. But before we jump on in, a little more backstory behind the cinematic is needed. This is sourced by, of course, the Cinematic Art Book, Volume 1.
Greetings!
Released on March 23rd, 2016, Recall was the first in a series of animated shorts that would continue fleshing out the world of Overwatch and build excitement for the game's upcoming release. Initially, the team considered doing a sequence of closely tied together episodes that would tell a single overarching story, but as brainstorming sessions continued, the story room decided that the best way to reveal more of Overwatch to the audience was with individual shorts told through the eyes of the game's heroes and villains. The narrative point of view on these stories was really going to be about celebrating the characters and giving a window into who they were and what made them tick. Through the characters, cinematics would offer a glimpse into the broader universe of Overwatch. It meant that the team was finally able to do what they wanted to do for a long time: build really character-driven pieces. The question then became who these shorts would be about. There was no shortage of interesting characters to choose from, but their points of view would need to be carefully matched to the specific stories the team would want to tell. For the first short, the premise was someone who would try to bring the disbanded Overwatch organization and its agents back together. But which character would actually have the desire to do that? There were early conversations where they felt like Winston should be the launch point. The highly intelligent gorilla was one of the main heroes from the announcement cinematic, and he also symbolized many other games' dominant themes. They picked Winston because, in some ways, he is the eternal optimist for Overwatch. He is, according to Jeff Kaplan, Overwatch's former game director, he is the heart and soul of Overwatch. He is, of course, Winston Overwatch.
Did someone say peanut butter?
And so that's where we are now. For those listening, you're free to watch the short on your own time, but for now we will be playing little bits and pieces and, just have fun with it.
A little help here?
Interesting fact that was on the Winston Wikipedia page, very informative. If you go back a little bit and you see his keyboard, you'll notice it's not in a normal language. Yeah, so see that? It's a bunch of these symbols, right? Winston apparently made that language up himself, so only he knows what it means. It's not like some secret, Overwatch language or like Moon language. He basically made it up from the lexicograms that Harold basically taught him. Because, and I am quoting here, he thinks that his keyboard system is superior to human keyboards.
Wow.
Honestly, I respect that so much.
Winston Overwatch, a linguist. We love a smart boy.
Speaking of smart boy, if we're gonna go into it, so officially, when he was growing up, he basically learned 3 major subjects as well as some specializing, I should say. And that was basically mechanical engineering, physics, and computer science. So he probably learned stuff like math and obviously how to speak English, the lexigram system, which, by the way, in the real world is a bunch of bogus, but we'll discount that in this universe. But yeah, so those are Winston's 3 specialties. According to his bio in Overwatch Declassified. It's mechanical engineering, physics, and computer science.
That's so cool. Man, I mean, look, if you type with your feet, you're bound to make your own typing system.
That leads me into my potentially controversial feet opinion.
Oh no. Yeah?
Okay. Neither Winston nor Hammond have feet. They have hands attached to their ankles, and therefore, when/if we make a feet tier list, they cannot be included.
You're talking about their paws, right?
No.
Uh-oh.
That is like physically wrong. Okay, as the Howard Winston enthusiast, I of course learn about genetics and physiology because, a normal fan does that. Do you know why they're called hands and feet? It's to do with the connection. It is the physical bone structure is different from a hand to a foot. So even though they're using it as a hand, they technically have 4, he's got feet.
Goose, rewind the tape. Show where he is interlacing his toes.
They have more joints. Gorillas have more joints. But the construction in the bone structure means their feet. Well, look, I can pick stuff up with my feet. Does that mean that I've got 4 hands? No.
No, but his are different because look at his hand and then look at his feet doing the hand stretch.
Yeah, but gorillas, not gorillas, scientists of his breed have more opposability in their joints. He is a Westworld gorilla.
Scientists have more joints.
If you just didn't want us to put animals on a feet tier list, you could have just said.
No, I wasn't fair. It's just not fair to everyone else. They have an unfair advantage. I can't type on the keyboard with my feet. He can.
That's a skill issue, okay? That's a skill issue.
Skill issue.
Every time you see news of this sort, we go through this. I remind you, recalling Overwatch agents to active duty comes with great risk. The Petrus Act clearly states any Overwatch activity is deemed illegal and punishable by prosecution.
I know. You're right.
Was that a new person I could ship?
One sec. If you want to know exactly who we're talking about, the picture is up on the screen on YouTube, and for those who aren't looking, this dude is at 152 in the video.
Making sure that when I find another person to ship this man with, they have timestamps so people know who the hell I'm talking about when I give them a generic name.
Oh, fair enough. What's the generic name of the day?
Okay. This one on the Atlas News, he's giving Brayden.
Brayden. I'll go with Brayden. Or Brandon.
Brandon. I like Brandon.
It's on brand. On.
This is officially Brandon, and I'm going to find him a spouse.
That's the way the world is. But I do miss the old days.
Can we just talk about, I never really saw this, the group picture, because they're showing the group picture right here. Everyone's celebrating, but Gabe's still like, you're going to get my good side.
And of
even
course,
though
his good side is the behind. Is that his diploma?
Yes, because this is when Winston officially sort of became an Overwatch member, this group picture, and everyone's like, being all happy. So this was definitely before the fallout, but, there's still that issue between Jack and Gabe, correct? Dear God, that height difference with everyone.
Look how snatched Anna's waist is. Like, I
Oh,
could
Jesus,
rather
yeah,
see
what the
heck?
around her. And Mercy, too.
They did not feed these girls.
They corseted them into a stick.
So I sent this on the earlier, but if you actually look, a little known detail that I actually found out from a Twitter user on this scene is that when Winston's looking through the glasses in this scene, there's a comet shooting by. I never noticed. It's a shooting star, and his eyes even follow the shooting star as it passes through.
God, we love the detail in that animation.
Yeah, it was very cool. It's so fast too, but it's such a good detail.
Yeah, it's so short. Even I've been watching this thing for this cinematic all the time for when I was doing my origin story animation, and I didn't know this.
I loved it. It was amazing.
Thank you very much. It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Well, someone's got to be obsessed about someone. I'm still a fan of that design. I made that design ages ago, basically to try and capture the astronaut vibe, but also of a man that's like kind of dying, not in like the Moira way where it's like withering away, but in like the literal like, oh yeah, this is an old guy. He is not healthy whatsoever, and he's pushing himself beyond his limits.
Would I be mean if I said like Jack Morrison?
I mean, yeah. Well, actually, on that note, Winston and Hammond have a lot more in common with Soldier 76 and Reaper. So the genetic therapy that basically made Winston bigger, smarter, and stronger was eventually taken over by an Aussie scientist called Dr. Olivia Norton. And this is getting into headcanon territory. I believe what she did was she took the same serum given to Winston and Hammond, given she worked on Horizon, and she basically changed it from something built to basically help the animals cope with living on the moon for like extended periods of time, and basically turned it into like weaponized Captain America serum, for lack of a better term. So basically, Winston and Hammond and Soldier 76 and Reaper have a very similar chemical running through their blood. So they're connected.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess that's what they mean by animal tested.
Oh my God, you're telling me that the super secret illegal government chemicals aren't vegan?
No, they were human tested first, and then they decided it was safe enough for animals.
No, actually, technically, it was tested on Winston and Hammond, on all of the other subjects. Then this Olivia lady came in, said like, "Oh, that's great. No patent. Oh, maybe I can steal it and then use that super strength thing I saw, and then test it on humans." And then that's when the soldier program happened, in which there were only 2 known survivors, which is, as we know, which is Soldier 76 and the man known as Reaper.
And then also sort of 2 known survivors as well from the animal program.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, all the animals survived.
Did they? No one in Overwatch really dies except for the NT
when we get there.
Hold on.
When we get there, but the animals, the other test subjects are alive. So yeah.
I don't know why I always thought the other test subjects, like, they were kind of taken out by the government.
Oh no! Oh, maybe we'll get to the end of this animation. I'll tell you guys all about the lore about Horizon in the Colony, because as the resident Howard Winston expert, that kind of falls under my my degree qualifications as, you know, as a doctor in Haroldology.
Of course, you
Heard
are
that.
the profession.
Yeah.
I think you have something that belongs to me. Hand them over. Oh, it's okay. You're not in trouble. Oh, I'll trade you. There you go, buddy.
Okay, so this is the introduction, and only introduction, at least officially, to Dr. Howard Winston, aka the project lead, mentor / father figure to Winston and Hammond, or Wrecking Ball, as the game calls him by. This guy's great. You know, I don't know if you got. He's only got 1 minute screen time, but he's great. Love him. You know, he's a good chap.
Wait, you like this dude? I would have never guessed.
Well, see, like, I don't even like him in the sense like other people like characters who it's go like, oh, I want to marry him or like marry him off with someone. I just like the character for basically what he stands for and what his role can be in the game. If they ever let him live, we're starting the hashtag, by the way. It's, you know, hashtag Overwatch let Howard live.
I'll support this. I like this.
Hashtag I support.
Hashtag
Thank you
stand
very
with
much.
Harold.
I stand with Harold.
I stand with Harold.
Let's hope when we get these hashtags going, an actual Herald is not getting canceled for something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Harolds in the world, so that's an issue. But yes, so Howard Winston here. I should specify, because some people think Overwatch lore is crazy enough to do this. No, he is not the literal father of the gorilla and the hamster. He did not give birth to them. I realize some people thought this, and I thought one person was going like, oh, you know, that's just them being silly, ha ha ha. But then several people have made comments about like the human, the gorilla, is actually the gorilla. Like, no, he is the father figure.
He's not the stepdad, he's the dad that stepped up.
Exactly. But yes, so Dr. Howard Winston is basically the person. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I know, like, Overwatch lore is weird, but I don't think they would go as far as to having a human give birth to a gorilla and a hamster.
Yeah, I mean, but look, I'm not. They did some funky stuff on Horizon, but I don't think that was one of them. Okay, let's just put that to bed. Howard is not literally related to the gorilla, the scientist and the hamster. He is their father figure. He is the project lead that basically administered their genetic treatment, and it was because of Winston and Hammond's particular growth, which I personally headcanon as it's partly their expertise and partly his nurturing that basically brought the two under his wing, and that's why he's here, checking up on Winston.
It just goes to prove that nurture is stronger than nature, and that if you nurture your gorilla and hamster child, they will become tanks in a video game.
So true, so true.
Yeah, this is another headcanon territory. Like, I literally think because he actually showed them like kindness and like a parental figure, that's the reason why they didn't get part of the rebellion, was because they didn't go primal. Because, Winston's ult is it's primal rage in the game, where he basically gets really big, he gets red, And I feel like that the emotions is what comes into play into his abilities. And I think what happened was that the other animal subjects basically went primal, and that's what led to Horizon's downfall.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a theory. Again, theory.
Come on. It's time I showed you something.
Oh my goodness! It's his language!
Yeah, that poster here, where Harold and Winston are reaching their hands out, that's the same language on Winston's computer keyboard. It is also a spray, I believe.
That would be a cool poster. I wish they sold that as a poster.
I don't know about y'all, but right now I am feeling very glasses.
I see the glasses.
Bottom left corner. I'm feeling very glasses right now.
I'm more like almost coffin shape.
What about that array of dots right above it? How are we feeling about that?
I'm the broken rake.
What about that little thing that kind of looks like a stealth fighter, like diagonally to the right from the broken rake?
Oh, that arrow, like arrow pointing up kind of deal.
I don't know why I said the stealth fighter. The arrow.
It is very shape.
Actually, I take it back. I'm more like question mark right now.
Hitting triangle circle? One of those is just a Y.
Yeah, I think that one was a keyhole. Or are you talking about the triangle pointing down into the circle?
The one next to it is just a Y.
Yep.
That's just a Y. And then there's just an equal sign.
I'm detecting intruders.
Talon. Athena. Kill the lights.
Every time he says that, I keep almost thinking he says just, Athena, kill them.
Athena, guillotine.
Security protocols failing. Winston, Reaper is extracting the Overwatch agent database.
So, I love it how you can tell that this short was created before they revealed Sombra. So it was just like, Sombra went over the whole entire, this is how you have to do it, details with Gabe.
And I know he wasn't listening to a minute of it. He was asleep behind that mask.
Yeah, no. Because, if she was, it would, you would be questioning, wait, why isn't it not her? That definitely wasn't revealed currently. Because if I do remember right, this one came out before the Sombra Zarya short, correct?
I believe this came up before the game even officially released.
Yes. Yeah, this was March, and the game released in May of the same year.
Yes, okay. Yes.
As well as the entire Sombra ARG happened, I think, after launch.
Yeah, the Sombra ARG happened a while ago. I'm just making sure that I'm getting my numbers all straight before I start saying, they didn't have Sombra doing this because they didn't reveal her.
They did also make a custom, design for the hacking device, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find... Yeah, here.
But no, so, definitely, you don't see that Sombra design in any of this. And that's so interesting, because, it was probably, a moment where she's like, hey, they don't want it to be, big, bright, and exciting, so here you go.
They wouldn't let me put the bisexual lighting on our stealth mission. How dare they?
Excuse me for dropping in.
Actually, since you're on here, can you scroll up, please, to the Howard concept art?
Yep.
So if you've got the Overwatch cinematic art book, among the pages is basically the concept design for Dr. Howard Winston himself, and his prototype versions. The clothing is relatively similar to the final product, with a slight less emphasis on the base suit underneath. So, because if you know what he wears, he's wearing a spacesuit and then a lab coat on top. But the concept art for his face was relatively different. It was a lot more Asian looking, with a lot more like spiky hair, yeah, like a lot more Asian features compared to the man that we get finally, who is a lot more, I would personally say, ethnically ambiguous.
They darn whitewashed their mans.
I like to imagine, given that Horizon is done by Liu Sheng and Fishcar, but Liu Sheng got the head front of it, and he would most likely be working under them. I'd like to imagine he's Chinese American, but that's not been confirmed in any way. I just say that because, well, he looks half Chinese to me, and I just think it's kind of like a nice throwback. He's definitely American because in the Overwatch cookbook, one of the recipes for Winston in Winston's side that is actually Howell's recipe is for moon pies or horizon pies, which is a very American dessert. I can tell you that. We do not have them where I'm from. So
yes, to add on to that, I do believe his voice actor is
Greg Chun.
Yes, Greg Chun.
Oh, he would be the American dub for if they're showing the picture from Squid Games.
Yes,
Yeah.
So that's his most famous role recently. He did the American dub for the lead actor in Squid Games. On the video game side of things, how the other way I know him personally is he played Nanba in the Yakuza series, or Like a Dragon series now, and he also played the lead character in the Judgment series, Yagami. I don't know if you're listening to this, Greg Chan, but if you are, for whatever reason, you are appreciated for all your vocal performances.
Whoa.
We stand the voice actors here.
We appreciate all artists.
Extraction at 32%.
Absolute comedy gold.
Me when I have to do my job on the clock where they pay me to do my job.
You know that gave him Cass and Genji flashbacks.
Oh,
The second that dude flew through the window, he was just like...
He had to fight himself from being like, Cassidy?
Yeah, I know, 100%. He, like, it was on the tip of his tongue.
The restraint.
If you go back 5 seconds, just before that thing fell down on him, that's actually the shuttle, the escape pod that Winston used to get to Earth, which you can see in the map itself.
I love it how he took the time to hang it back up.
Well, see for yourself.
Fun fact, the very first time I watched this cinematic, I thought they were just gonna open the doors into space.
Lord!
I did not get the idea that it was a window. You want to see Earth? Let's see if you can get into its gravity.
That's what they did with the other scientists there.
Well, we'll get to there when we get to there, because, like I said, Horizon. What actually happens to Horizon, like after this scene, is, well, let's just say I would count it as the most brutal death in Overwatch, and there's been a couple of brutal deaths in this series, but this is, like, I would say the most brutal ones come after this.
We need to get a proper kill count of the entire Overwatch universe.
I think that'd be too much, honestly.
One day.
One day.
Always remember, never accept the world as it appears to be. Dare to see it for what it could be.
Fun fact for this one, again, as resident Harold fan, if you try and type that exact quote in, you'll find a bunch of, like, inspirational quote websites that just copy it verbatim, and they'll credit his name, but they won't say it's from Overwatch of all places.
Wait, I'm seeing
Which is, I find hilarious, personally.
Oh my god. god.
OMG.
I just know there's some 60-year-old woman out there who like bought a print of that and she has no idea it's from a video game.
Oh my god.
That's
It's even more
amazing.
hilarious because so many of them they don't use the picture of like this pose scene right here where it's Harold and baby Winston holding hands looking at the Earth, but they will include the Earth in the picture. It just includes the planet and that quote. But, you know, they don't include that it's from Overwatch. They'll just quote his name like he's a real person. Which, by the way, technically he is. In the real world, Howard Winston is the only person that technically exists. Because, and I am not kidding here, basically around this January of this month, this year, so January 2024, January 6, 2024, I should be specific, the Overwatch EU account basically interacted with NASA's hashtag Send Your Name campaign, where they put Howard Winston's name on a ticket, which is gonna be on a moon rover, which means technically Harold exists. He's the first person to physically exist because his name is on a moon rover as we speak.
Let's go.
Woo.
I've got one more bit about this specific scene actually. So that quote, "Never accept the world as it appears to be, dare to see it for what it could be," one is great. I use it for my animation, love it. But that line was actually created before the cinematic was even a thing. Basically, they knew they had to have a scene with someone, may not have necessarily been Howard at that stage, but someone basically says that to a young Winston to basically inspire him. And the picture of the two of them looking at the Earth was basically supposed to be like a kind of bittersweet moment. You know, it's like looking at the Earth with either hope, but also acknowledge that, you know, as you said, see the world as it is, which in this context would be starting to get a lot of conflict because the Omnic crisis would happen maybe a year or two after this, but see the world for what it could be. Hopeful, bright, vibrant. I think it's sweet.
Yes, which is exactly what Overwatch's main theme is, a bright and hopeful future, which is just incredible to me.
Yeah.
I love the quote. I love this shot so much. I will get wood block prints of this quote and hang it up in my kitchen next to my Live, Love, Laugh.
It's a good quote when you can just see people using it in real life and being like, oh, okay, like it does have an impact outside of gamers.
It's a good quote when old women steal it on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking through the Google images of this quote. There's so many Facebook pages that use it. And they're not gaming Facebook pages, they're just inspirational ones.
I know some old lady has it embroidered on a pillow. She put hard work and dedication into her pillow, and it's an Overwatch quote, and no one's gonna tell her.
I'm not a monkey. I'm a scientist.
That frame.
That's a great smear frame.
Loving the angle where he's bent at a 90 degrees.
He's mostly dust. He can bend any way he needs to.
Huh?
Wait.
That would fix my back pain. No, that would make my back pain so much worse. That man's 50. He probably threw out his hip. Someone call that poor old man a doctor.
I mean, he does have a doctor.
Wait.
Yeah, he's dust. He'll regen.
Look at the dramatic way he collapses. I love him because he's so dramatic and I'm so dramatic.
Does that mean I like Harold because I get maybe thrown out of an airlock? I like that. I dig it. Go out with a bang. Or a fizzle.
Everyone has something that they relate to in their favorite character.
Wait. Play the clip. I need to see something.
Hmm.
Winston with the gun.
This better not be about the feet again.
I just got this other smear frame.
He's grabbing it. Normal people can't do that. He doesn't have feet. He has hands attached to his ankles.
That literally doesn't work that way! Feet are called feet because of the construction of the dog!
It's not about the construction, it's about the principle.
Okay, 1 second. There's this tiny detail when I was rewatching this.
Why is
Reinhardt in Greenland?
I was gonna say.
Ryan, why are you in Greenland?
He's lost.
Yeah, it literally just like barely rotates. Why is Ryan in Greenland, guys?
I would be like, let's ask the narrative team, but.
Establishing agent connections.
The people reflected in his glasses. I'm seeing multiple people I could ship. So many people I could ship.
How many of these also do you think are like hero concept arts as well?
I think most of them
almost
are...
all of them were.
Yeah.
What was the name of the first guy? Brayden?
I was gonna say Torbjorn.
Brandon. I think you agreed on Brayden or Brandon.
Brandon.
I think it was Brandon. This guy in the glasses. The reflection. What is he giving?
Pierre. Something French. Like, there's something about him that screams French.
Jean-Philippe.
John Philippe, you mean?
Jean-Philippe.
Jean-Philippe.
John
Okay.
Philip.
Yeah, let's keep going through, like, to see, because I know I saw our girl Sojourn. Like, how many of the people that weren't already released in game made it in? Because so far I think it was just Sojo.
Fun fact, actually, if I remember correctly, they did an early retcon with Angela's age here. I think they made her like 35 instead during Overwatch 1, and then obviously aged her back up in Overwatch 2.
Mm-hmm. I know. Keep going. I want to see just like how many heroes we've had that were shown in the recall. Okay, Torb was already in it.
I've never seen this one before.
Oh my God.
before.
Okay. That one's pretty detailed, and I think they actually have a name.
This one right here is, I believe, Mirambe Atim. She also shows up with Kimiko in Anna's Legacy comic very briefly. They don't have much lore, but I do believe they just like these two particular concept arts and decided to turn them into canonical agents, which is pretty cool. And fun fact, Mirambe is a Luganda name meaning peace, which, hell yeah. Oh, and here is Kimiko, as I mentioned before. We've already seen this one. And oh, Sojo!
Sojourn!
Real name. So long.
So far,
That's what
only
people
person
say about me all the time.
the only person with a blurry name to make it into the game.
There's hope for them yet. For the rest of them. John Philippe will make it into the game.
Winston? Is that you, love? It's been too long.
Yes. Yes, it has.
Wow! Guys, Overwatch begins
May 24th, 2016.
OMG, guys, I can't wait.
Pre-order your copy today at our sponsor link. We don't have that.
No, unfortunately, we do not. But that concludes our silly little recall commentary segment. A great cinematic, as all Overwatch cinematics are, really.
Pardon me.
Well, now that we've got to the end of that video, I can start talking about everything to do with Horizon. Because it's yay!
Get a load of this.
Okay, really quickly though, before you do begin, I do love though how they have the spirit of Overwatch, which is Winston, the first person that talks to him is the face of Overwatch, which is Tracer / Lena.
Yes.
Like, their bond is so important, and like
their bond is Overwatch.
They really are the heart of the game. Now, Horizon.
Moon Sweet Home.
Great. So, Horizon. Do you want me to give like the timeline, or do you want me to just give like random facts first?
It'd be good to have some context before.
Okay, so for the people that don't know, Horizon Lunar Colony is a map that was in Overwatch, and now it's out of Overwatch because it was part of 2 control points, which that specific game mode has been scrapped and being reworked for the time being. So you can only access that map in a custom game. So if you're an Overwatch 2 player, you know,
or
and an arcade.
As well. It's labeled as
Assault map.
Yes, Assault map in arcade.
Yeah. So basically, Horizon Lunar Colony came, I believe it was about a year or 2 after Overwatch released. So it wasn't a map that existed when it started. And I was able to suggest Horizon Lunar Colony is set on the moon.
Whoa.
So the thing is that in the cinematic, so you can see it like the Watchpoint Gibraltar is there, which is 1-for-1 for the game, because that is literally the game map converted into a cinematic style. Mm-hmm. But Horizon hadn't been created, or at least it was in a very rough stage when that cinematic was being played. So they had to basically figure out the connecting tissue of areas, so to speak. So what ended up happening was that they decided, I think Horizon is a very unique map because more than any of the other Overwatch maps that you can play, there is a lot of lore and there's a lot of hidden lore on the map, which basically talks about the map's downfall. Because if you play it, the moon base is in disrepair. There's bits that are broken. There's clearly been like a ransacking going on, and at certain points of the map, you can hear like the distant sounds of like animals, like hooting, like very faintly in the distance. You normally can't hear it unless you put the music all the way down. But what happened to Horizon? So, how did Winston go from being a monkey scientist on the moon to coming into Earth and joining Overwatch? So, surprisingly detailed backstory. Part of it is my extra research, and part of it has been confirmed and clarified in the Overwatch the Classified book. So, timeline. So, first of all, the reason why Horizon Lunar Colony even exists was that Liu Cheng Interstellar, which is one of the maps you see in Lijiang, basically they wanted to go to the moon. They wanted to basically habilitate other planetary bodies. So the moon was the first culprit. But their original plans was like 5-10 years, into the future. But then a certain someone made a piece of technology that basically helped them streamline it from 5 to 10 years to 1 year. And that man is Dr. Steven de Kuiper, also known as Sigma. So Sigma makes all of the levitating, you see the floating cars, the levitating vehicles. That is based on a variation of Sigma's prototype known as maglev, magnetic levitation. And it was with this maglev that they were able to cut fuel costs. That basically helped Liu Cheng basically go like, okay, we can make the colony now. So basically Sigma came in, and he was part of the Indian Research Institute, if I remember correctly. So he was like essentially a contractor with Liu Cheng Interstellar to basically help them make the colony. Around this time, this bit is hypothetical. I imagine that Howard Winston probably met Sigma around this time because they're known as being good friends even before their first known meeting, which will be years later. So I can only guess that around this time when the colony was being built was when they actually got acquainted with each other. And you can take acquaintance in whatever fashion you like, but officially, or at least in my understanding, they knew each other around this time. I'd like to imagine they were colleagues around this first.
And they were roommates.
So anyway, Horizon gets built, and Harold Winston is basically the project lead. So he's basically the project lead on the Horizon project. which is basically to look at animal subjects and basically genetically modify them to study the long-term effects of space/lunar habitation, and basically with the goal of basically having humans live long-term in space. But the thing is, and this is where the soldier serum comes into play, was that the side effect was that these animals were getting bigger than they're supposed to be, and they were a lot smarter. So basically, the experiments around this time shifted to documenting what the genetic treatment was doing to the animals, rather than, oh, we can use this to help humans live in space. Dr. Olivia Norton probably comes in around this time to basically make her own version for the Soldier program, in which, as I mentioned, Soldier 76 and Reaper were created, so to speak. That's how they got their powers, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but anyway, Sigma, well, Dr. Sieben de Kuiper, as he's known as back in the day, he does a year residency on Horizon to conduct some research. There's a voice line between Winston and Sigma. I'm not sure, it was in Overwatch 1, I'm not sure if it's still around anymore, but basically it talks about how Winston remembers Sigma for visiting Harold, in which case Sigma calls him his good friend.
I remember you. You visited the doctor on the lunar colony.
He was a good friend. And you were much smaller back then.
Good friend.
Good friend.
Exactly, good friends. But that line does give some credence to the fact that Harold and Sigma, at the very least, aside from being good friends, they most likely worked together. Maybe not directly, but they probably were working on a similar project, or, you know, they were going after a similar goal. It also suggests that Harold did not get visitors despite being the head of the project, because I would assume Winston would have mentioned something about it by now.
Yeah.
Anyway, the start of the tragedy was that, let's say, even if Sigma did want to come back after his year residency, that was when the Omnic Crisis started. And basically, Horizon and the Colony managed to keep itself online, but essentially it was stranded. But so anyway, Omnic Crisis happened, and they were basically left to their own devices, which worked out fine enough. They survived, they had supplies, you know, no one died or got injured or anything. However, after the Omnic Crisis basically went away, Liu Cheng Interstellar most likely collaborated with Vishkar if they weren't already collaborating. And this is, again, headcanon territory, I believe that they were probably going to set their sights on something bigger, like Mars.
Yep.
And as a result, they ended up giving minimal support to Horizon. So they had access to their feed and camp and everything, but they basically didn't monitor it.
So wait, like, you say Mars, I could have sworn there is a new character coming out.
Season 12.
Like, do you think that's connected?
I believe that's where Space Ranger comes into play. But as for what Space Ranger's actual connection to the lore itself, I'm not so sure. There's a chance she could be the friend that partied it up with May back when May was studying, but it's at the moment that's just speculation. We have we don't know anything about Space Ranger other than the fact that she's from Mars somehow.
Yep.
And that she's
whole brain cells are firing
and
right now.
She's a support. As well, to anyone listening in the future, if they do retcon anything that we're saying to you guys right now, we're sorry. So this is what we know currently at the moment. But if Space Ranger comes out and then they change some stuff that we're bringing up, we're sorry.
Imagine we record this and then they retcon everything tomorrow.
That'd be funny.
Well, I would be very disappointed because I spent a lot of time documenting this. Yeah, no idea. I've got like three A4 pages worth of notes on Horizon.
No, and thank you so much. But we're putting that disclaimer out there as well because everything's always changing, and this is Space Rangers is coming in like 3 seasons. So praying that it's not a massive retcon, but praying it gives us some good Herald lore bring along with it.
As long as I get more mentions of him, I'll stop looking and save, and that's all I require. But yeah, so anyway, going back to the timeline. So after the Omnic Crisis, Horizon technically was being monitored because all of the systems were still there, but they were basically not monitored closely by Liu Cheng. And I think the other scientists basically took advantage of that. It's basically been documented in Declassified that the other scientists were unshackled, were trying to go beyond the original experiment. Now they were focusing on making the animals stronger, smarter, better, faster, stronger.
Our work is never over.
And that most likely led to the abuse of the animal subjects and basically turning them primal rage on them, which I'm pretty sure is a side effect of the serum, because Howard Winston, if you can see this in the map yourself, there are these little screens that basically show messages from the various scientists on Horizon talking to one another. And Howard Winston, basically as the caretaker of Winston and Hammond, notes in his correspondences that those two don't have any abnormal behavior or behavioral issues in general, which makes me believe that him being a proper parental figure and not just, scientists taking care of animals for the experiment is basically what led them to be more normal.
Guys, don't abuse animals.
Yeah, don't do that.
Especially if they're genetically altered in any way.
Especially if you're trying to make them stronger.
And that definitely bites them in the ass, because eventually the animal subjects basically pull off a rebellion. They basically form a mutiny. And how they did it is, and I'm being serious here, I think it's one of the most brutal ways that characters have been murdered in the game.
No.
What did the animals do? They forged Harold's basically signature. So they signed on to the screens as him, and they basically put a fake notice out saying, "Oh, guys, I need emergency. I need all personnel to go to this airlock." But the thing is that you can see this in the map. It's on the second attacker spawn. There's a line of spacesuits, and all of them are accounted for, except for one. And so that means all but one person, basically, they got booted out into space to die. Because there's no sign of blood, there's no sign of, physical violence necessarily happening to the people. So... And you can even find a peanut butter jar. So they got booted into space.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Like I said, brutal.
But one survived.
Excuse me for dropping in.
Okay, so it's almost certain that every other human died. But as I mentioned, there is one spacesuit that's missing. And that is the one that says Winston. Which, in this case, it's not Winston... the scientist gorilla. This is Winston the human, Howard Winston. Howard's spacesuit is missing, which means someone was using it. Complete speculation at this point. Complete speculation.
Do you think he managed to make it to Mars?
Look, as much as I'd love for him to be alive, # let Howard live, I believe the reality is a little bit trickier. I do think he was not part of the people who were booted up into space by airlock, because they forged his credentials specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he saw his own message that he clearly did not write, he wouldn't have gone to the airlock.
Mm-hmm.
So my reasoning, I bet, was that either he was already outside on the spacewalk, or he grabbed the spacesuit because he knew something wasn't right, and then something happened to him. He could be alive, he could not be alive, but whatever the case, I think Howard's fate is different to the fate of the other scientists. My personal headcanon kind of, sob story kind of thing, he was the one to help Winston and Hammond to an extent flee. Because Winston at the rebellion had an escape pod that he used to basically jet off for Watchpoint Gibraltar, and I think Harold basically helped him escape before anyone else could get a hold of him. Maybe he died, maybe he survived, but I feel like And that could also explain why Winston has his glasses, because can't really have glasses in a spacesuit.
Mm-hmm.
Like a parting gift.
My theory was a lot less cool. I was thinking that they, like, tied him up in a closet or something so he couldn't see a message he didn't write and be like, hey guys, I didn't write that.
Also, going now into with Mars, what if he was at Mars when that happened and they cut off communication, like, sort of to help out because, you know, space is big. So, like, Horizon's sort of like that in-between internet point, cutting off communication to Mars. Harold knows something's up, can't fully get back, but just has enough communication power to help Winston and Hammond off of the moon.
See, logically, he has to be on the moon to send that message, because if he was on Mars and he's the project lead, people will know he's on Mars if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go like, hang on, why is Harold sending a message saying go to the airlock? He's not even on the moon.
Yeah, no.
So that's why I feel like he could have escaped to Mars. That'd be a nice kind of continuation. Yeah. But like I said, canonically, given the evidence, Harold's fate is officially unknown. But the other scientists are dead.
He's MIA in there.
He's MIA.
Well, hopefully Space Ranger will give us more information about that, since the Mars colony has so much to do with Harold and Sigma, and along with Vishkar.
Watch it not be related in any sort of capacity, and they don't mention Horizon Lunar Colony whatsoever.
You know what? I wouldn't put them past them at this current moment.
That'd be so troll. You release another space-related hero, literally named Space Ranger, that's from space, but you don't mention anything about the other pre-existing space colony.
Can I offer something the complete opposite of that? Because I thought of the dumbest, funniest theory ever.
Go ahead.
Harold Winston. He escapes. He says, I'll flee to Mars. They'll never see me on Mars. He gets blown off course by some stellar wind. And now, I don't know anything about a black hole, but he goes past the black hole, and time distorts, and he comes out younger. And he transitions. And he takes on the alias Space Ranger.
So he just transitions gender.
In space, but we'll make it work.
No,
oh
but
my God.
You know that it's also kind of, you know, you mentioned, actually now that you mention it, that's kind of the reason why I actually fell for like how Winston in the first place fell in love, in the sense of like appreciation for the character. It was basically his narrative like connection with Sigma. But again, like, you can take the relationship anywhere you want to take it, but I personally like the kind of thing that they're both men of science, both men of space, and they both basically got destroyed in one sense or the other by their own creations. Sigma, in the pursuit of the black hole for an extension of the gravity technology he basically built, and Harold for basically not having a tighter rein on his ship and basically letting the other animals suffer, even though he himself only means, you know, the best for those under his care.
That is some fanfic moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why in my version of events, Harold basically gets jumped in space in the animation, and basically as revenge, he gets injected with the same genetic serum that basically created Winston and Hammond. And yeah, in my version, in my fanficky animation version, it basically turns him super soldier in a sense. He gets the strength, he gets the intelligence from it, but it also kills him, like from the inside out. So even more than Moira, he's a ticking time bomb.
I really liked your animation, by the way. Good job on that. It was amazing. Y'all, if y'all haven't seen it, watch it. Goose, editor's note, put a link to that in the description with credits.
Yes.
I will.
Yay!
Oh god. I'm still a little bit shy about that animation, TBH.
It looked so good!
I worked hard on it, and hey, it's not just me. I also gotta thank the voice actor to collaborate on it, Retro. did a very great job. Like, literally, it was first. I'll tell you this. I put the post out asking for voice actors who can do like a decent Howard voice. Retro was the first and only person, frankly, to respond back. And I put an audition out, and I was going like, oh, like, it's the first person. From my experiences, it's usually not that great or polished, but man, Retro just, pulled it out of like thin air. It was like perfect immediately.
Anyone want to hear my favorite joke about the periodic table?
I was gonna say, so the Overwatch short story book that's coming out, like we are within the 30 days countdown until it. Yeah, it is coming out very soon, less than 30-something days. And one of the stories is about Hammond, but it looks like he's still in a spacesuit. Do you think that it's either more about his escape, because that's what his origin story was about, or do you think it's about the uprising from his point of view? This is just, like, did they confirm based off of the blurbs on the back of the book?
I thought it was supposed to be about infiltrating Liu Cheng into Stellar, and that's what's got me excited, because the picture on the front cover even shows Hammond in front of Lijiang Tower, which is Liu Cheng Interstellar's headquarters. So whatever he's got going on involves them. I have no idea how, and they even mention, I think, in the blurb that it'll take to the moon, which means something is going to get talked about in regards to Horizon. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm reading through it right now. There's nothing about the moon necessarily, but they're in the main blurb, like, when it lists the various locations, it mentions the highest floors of Lijiang Tower to the stars themselves. So don't miss this exploration of the battle spot all around the globe. So yeah, definitely Lijiang Tower. Was he gonna do there? We'll see.
That is definitely something we need to keep an eye out on.
He's gonna find his uncle. Father? Are they siblings?
Technically, Winston and Hammond are like step-siblings, I like to imagine.
Not the step-sibling, the sibling that stepped up.
Actually, on that note, I've got another headcanon, which I only have it because I think it's funny, but it also kind of fits with what little we do know. Hammond's voice box, the hamster to voice speech. I think Harold actually made that. Think about it. The reason why I say Harold did it and not Hammond or anybody else is two reasons. Number one, Harold was the guy in charge of Hammond. He, of all people, is the one that's supposed to take care of him, just as he took care of Winston. And number two, Hammond is canonically the one character in the game who swears, and he swears a lot. But it has a filter to basically stops him from swearing. It even says profanity filter activated.
That sounds like something a dad would do.
Exactly. Why would a hamster who made it himself put a profanity filter on, unless he didn't actually make that? He just retrofitted it into the mech. And who could make it? It had to have been Harold or someone else, but I imagine it's got to be Harold because he landed in Australia, and I don't think the Junkers were sophisticated enough to figure out how to do hamster to speech voice generation.
And of all people, the Australians would have not censored him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there is censorship here, but not that kind of censorship. Swearing would be par for the course might.
You know what? It also, giving Hammond a profanity filter, just being like, oh yeah, no, he was definitely cussing around Hammond a lot. It's definitely parent around their first child, Harold and Winston, versus parent around their second child, Harold and Hammond.
Absolutely.
Because by the time you get your second, I was going to say, by the time you get to your second child, your second baby, or even the youngest, you're just like, I'm gonna be raising you, but
we're
already
done. That turned out fine.
We already have one that has some trauma.
Well, see, I personally don't swear at all. I have a personal vendetta against it, but so because of that, I don't like to think that Howard swears. But Hammond, in his story, was known for sneaking around. Just because Howard didn't swear doesn't mean the other scientists weren't, spouting expletives when they thought no one was looking.
Imagine you are a scientist on the lunar colony. You drop a wrench on your foot and you are so mad because you are in space. Gravity should be less, it should not hurt. You drop the F word. And then you see it. The hamster. It looks at you with its beady eyes. And you know it's gonna
tell his dad.
And that's why Harold took measures of his own to make sure that he stays friendly and civil, as much as a rowdy teenager would be. Because, Hammond is a teenager in human years, but, like, in hamster years, he's old. He's really old. And same for Winston, too. That's considered a perk of the genetic treatment.
Oh, no. Hamster is 16 years old, apparently.
Yeah,
That
16.
explains a lot. That makes a lot make sense, actually.
Hamster and Rilla should be dead, but they're not. Hallelujah.
And instead, they're teenagers. Oh, no.
Actually, sorry.
I was gonna say, Winston's in, like, his 20s or 30s?
He should be at the club.
30s, okay.
Ah, never mind. He should not be at the club. He'll throw out a hip.
No, not the hip.
But actually, I just had realized something. If Hammond, and I'm assuming Winston too, can live beyond their years as a side effect of the genetic treatment, as well as the super strength, super intelligence, yada yada, won't that work with Soldier and Reaper too?
Well, yes,
That
or else
probably
they would have had to retire when they slipped a disc falling down the stairs at age 40.
I mean, they supposedly died. Gabriel Reyes and Jack Morrison supposedly died, in the Switzerland thing. But if they got that genetic treatment in them, maybe they survived. I don't know, just a theory.
I don't know. I don't
We
believe
would
it.
never know, though.
The building on that guy. He's probably dead.
Yeah, I think they're both just well in the grave. But yeah, no, if that didn't happen, who knows? Who knows where they'd be right now if they'd lived.
Too bad they're dead, and we'll just never know.
Yeah, if only they were playable. I bet they'd be fun, stable characters.
Imagine all the lore that we'll never get because they're not playable characters, and they're dead.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
I said that the same thing about Harold, but I know better. So who knows? Maybe it's the same with them.
Harold lived. Those two, they did. They're dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only people who have actually died in the Overwatch universe, the Inti Warriors, Jack Morrison, and Gabriel Reyes.
Absolutely.
Conspiracy theory. Alari's killing everybody.
Oh my god.
Alari's blast was so powerful, boom, it killed Harold Winston.
And then it went back in time and it blew up the Swiss HQ.
Yes.
That makes sense.
It went back in time. That's how powerful it was. It went completely back in time.
The sound barrier, it broke the light barrier, and then it broke the time barrier, and it specifically only killed those two people.
And all of her people.
Absolutely.
And all of her people, of course.
A better world is possible today.
Well, if that's all that we have to cover today, I think that was very insightful. Thank you again, Alpha Wave, for taking the time to join us on this very, very silly podcast that we have.
It was wonderful
Not a problem.
having you here.
It was nice having you, and also, once again, congratulations on the amazing animation.
Thank you very much for having me and letting me talk about Harold Winston for I have no idea how long I've been doing this, but thank you very much. And yeah, thank you for checking out the animation. It's a personal pet project of mine, and anyone who's listening, just take a look. Let me know what you think. I good opinions or bad opinions, I can handle it. No, but thank you so much for having me here, guys. Really appreciate it.
And with that, this is where we'll end our show. As always, feel free to check us out on both at Lorewatch _ and at AlphaWave13 on Twitter. Additionally, Alpha's Herald origin story animation can also be found in the description of wherever you're listening to this on.
Well, y'all, this has been Lorewatch. Thank you for listening.
See you all next Thursday. Bye.
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 Jack Morrison would be rolling in his grave.
The tragically deceased late strike commander of
happy belated birthday, Jack
Ex-commander.
Morrison! You're old.